Well, I mean, I think it asks you that when you're trying to go live.
Not for me.
Oh, good. Okay.
I don't know why.
Good.
Maybe I'm a problem in the firewall. I don't know.
It does say on my screen that it's now streaming live.
Oh, good.
Content is being sent to a third party live. Well, I mean, I think it asks you that when you're trying to go live.
We're good. Not for me.
Oh, good. Okay.
I don't know why.
Good.
All right. And we're still live. You still see that live on YouTube? Yes?
Yes.
Perfect. Good deal. Now I got to go grab people from the waiting room if there's anyone there. And there's no one there.
Oh, no.
Might just be us. Might be us tonight. No, Ethan and Chris are going to join for sure.
Right, for sure. Who else did I get?
Sandy said he'll be here too.
Realtor of the Year
Yeah, I saw that.
of the state.
Oh,
Of
wow.
the state.
State of
Whoa.
Maine Realtor of the Year. I think it's what
Wow.
the sign said.
Wow.
You can
Yeah.
ask him.
Good for him. All right, Shenley, we got the AI is taking notes and we're live, so
Awesome.
keep that in mind.
Okay.
Shenley, could you maybe pull up the agenda so you have it, so maybe you could share your screen? Just so the existing language is shown and the proposed language,
Just 1 second.
if you can.
I can, just 1 minute.
You don't need to share it now, but you could
Have it ready.
you could test sharing it now if you wanted to.
What's today? November.
You might be able to grab it from the select board or the town's website. Easy.
Yeah, it might be nicer to do it that way. Do that instead of finding it. My share screen. Shoot. And can you see it?
Perfect. Yeah. And
Okay,
then you
good.
could probably zoom in a little bit, or once you expand does it get bigger or no? Oh,
This?
there you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
And then
That's
zoom
good.
in when you need it. Okay.
Sure. You could leave it there now if you wanted.
Oops.
Or
Okay.
no, that's fine. I'm letting
Okay.
Melanie in. I'm not sure who this is.
Just in case.
It's Chriso.
It is
Oh,
a friend was borrowing my computer. I'm not sure why I'm or how to
Melanie.
change.
Yeah. So if you go up into your right corner and one of those three dots, you can
Yeah,
come
yeah,
down.
yeah. I know. I'm trying
Okay.
to. I'm.
It's all right. We don't mind Melanie. She's fine. Hello, Ethan. Gonna ask Ethan to unmute.
Hello, how's everybody doing? I guess I'm in the dark here. Hold on.
Hey, now
for
you
the
got a
light.
nice background.
Yeah, well, it's my go-to, you can't see.
Is that Sohm
Sometimes
sound?
I turn into a floating head. What's that?
That Sohm sound?
That is some sound out there in Mount Desert.
Some sound? Oh, Mark Murray's gonna be with us. Good.
Some sound. Okay.
And I know Sandy was gonna join us too.
Right.
We're live and we're taking notes, okay? AI's taking notes for us for minute purposes, and then the video is being recorded live on YouTube, Ethan.
Gotcha.
Do you want to give a little intro as chair? And maybe, you know what we should do probably, is just approve that old, remember we had that old policy for Zoom?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Do you want to kind of do a motion to continue that for workshop purposes only, and then get a second and a vote on that?
Okay.
Does that make sense to you? It makes sense to me just to have that in the record
Okay.
for us as we go in the future. Not really about today,
Right.
but just in general.
Right. So you want me to make the motion? Move that we reenact or reconfirm the Zoom policy. Is that what you're asking for? From prior times, years, for the purposes of Zoom meetings only for now.
Zoom workshops.
Zoom workshops.
Perfect.
Apologies, I have a cold. I'm taking my cold medicine, so I'm not chugging other things.
We got a second from Mark or Chriso?
Second,
So,
All in favor?
Perfect. Thank you.
That's it. Done.
I'll still
So
wait
is-
for, go
We're
ahead.
waiting for Sandy, right?
Well, he said he was going to be here, so we can wait a couple
Yeah.
more minutes before we start if you want. I was
Is
going to
that
do.
it then? The two of us plus, or the three of us plus Sandy possibly?
Yeah.
yeah,
And three makes a, I mean, we don't need, do we need a quorum for this one? We don't really.
No.
well, the
No.
only action we're gonna take is scheduling a hearing potentially, so,
Yeah.
and Sandy's an alternate, I believe.
Right.
yes.
So,
Right,
okay.
but he might be activated for, do we,
But
do we
if
have
he- You
can
five
activate him.
standing? Do we have five standing members? Is that what we have?
No, we got 7.
We had 7. Yeah.
Seven, like
Don't we?
not
Are we missing someone?
alternate?
Yeah. John
I'm
Cole, Pat, Chen, Lucia, Mark, Ethan, Chriso, and Sandy. That's 7.
Oh, I just
Just-
meant outside of the non-alternates.
Six
What makes a
plus,
quorum?
six
Six
plus an
plus.
alternate.
Right.
I thought there were 2 alternates, but you can just keep going.
It allows for 2, we don't have them currently.
I thought Mark
It's-
was an
it's-
alternate. Did you get moved up, Mark?
Mark-
I think he got promoted.
Now, Mark's full member, what's his name, was an alternate.
Oh, that's right.
Mark and Sandy were alternates, and that's how they have it
No.
now, but I don't know if that's
Oh, really?
up to date. That's on the webpage, yeah.
We'll figure that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ethan, you want me to just start what I was going to do, non-agenda items?
Well, yeah, let me just, oh, yeah, hey, welcome to the Camden Planning Board meeting of 11/21. It's a workshop, and we'll go to the agenda now for first non-agenda items. Jeremy, do you have something?
I've got 2. You had asked for a update on short-term rentals.
Yes.
Right, as I recall, when last time Shenley met with you all. So we have, and if you followed along, you think some of you were there, both Ethan and Chriso attended. But yeah, so we hired Deckard Technologies to help us. They've been working with Shenley, Maddie, myself, and Clint on getting their system up and running. They're currently identifying short-term rentals in town. I think they've thus far identified 150 about, or 180, somewhere in that time frame. That's like verified properties, as I recall. They verified addresses and all those kinds of things. So it's not like they've identified them out there in the world of Camden. They actually identified properties, mapping lots, and all of that. So that's moving forward, and by January, we should have the system up and running. So applicants will be able to license begin the process to license their short-term rentals online. with Deckard Technology from a link on our page on the city, the town's webpage. So that's where we are. We're moving along. Don't
And the
envision-
fees were approved at
fees were approved at
1,500.
and what was it?
Oh.
350,
500, yeah, 300, 350,
500,
500.
and 1,000. So that's where we are. With that, that's moving along. Thought you'd be pleased to know that, and that's just on schedule, and that's when it becomes
Yeah.
effective this July. So we are going to have to work out some of the challenges with the subsurface wastewater. That issue is going to be a little challenging to work with some property owners on our end. We'll obviously work with them, but at some point they got to resolve that issue with us. So that's moving forward. The next one issue is accessory apartments. You remember the definition that we did to comply with state law? We got grant funding, $10,000 to help us do the all these new LD 2003 rules. We again applied for a grant, got 10,000, submitted our paperwork back to them along with a copy of the ordinances that were approved by voters. They were very pleased with how we approached it, the language. Shenley mostly calculated what we spent on that. We spent about, I think it was $27,000 or so of planning board time, select board time, my time, Shenley's time, town attorney time in that whole endeavor is 27,000 or so it cost us. They reimbursed us 10 we got. And then they said, oh, by the way, we loved it, but we don't like your definition of accessory apartments because it doesn't include the minimum size requirement of 190 square feet that was in the rule. We didn't like that provision. And we pushed back. They pushed back and said, well, you can return the $10,000 then.
Oh,
So it was kind of,
is that because you wanted 600?
no, that's
As
a
a
minimum
minimum?
size. We didn't include a minimum size. But they said
Maximum
that,
600, right? I
Yeah.
see. Yeah.
but they were upset that we didn't include a minimum of 190, which is in their rules. So we said we comply with every permit we issue, every review we do. We review for compliance with state, local, and federal laws that we understand. And in this case, we were just going to, if someone came in at 180, we were going to say it doesn't work, it violates state law. And we wouldn't issue the permit, and they didn't like that response. So I have an amendment that I'm going to throw to you probably in a hearing in a little bit, just to add that 190 square feet to that definition. It's really foolishness in my opinion. But I don't want to give the $10,000 back to the state, and I've been poking them on. So that's where we are.
I was unaware that planning board time was compensated. I didn't get my check.
No, you didn't. I'm sorry. That's for volunteer hours. There's a
Civic duty.
dollar amount for you, Ethan.
Oh, really? Okay, got it. Yeah.
We
Yeah,
have
Good to know.
value.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
do.
we do. I just want to stop you real quick. Thanks, Jeremy. I want to welcome Sandy. Hi, Sandy. Welcome to the planning board. I
Thank you.
guess did we decide that we were going to elevate Sandy today to get our quorum? Is that right?
If we have a
So,
vote, yeah.
is there a motion on that? We may vote on at least setting a meeting.
Well, I don't think we need a
That-
motion. We just
You
need
don't
to
need a motion
acknowledge.
for that. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
We
So,
just acknowledge that he is a voting member this evening if
Yeah.
we need to.
yeah.
All right. And Ethan, you're still chair for now?
I mean, yeah, I haven't heard any rabble rousing, but I'm
Okay.
open to it.
All right. Sounds good.
So moved.
There. You want me to move forward with the agenda?
Yeah, I also just wanted to say hi to Tom. Thanks for joining. Yeah, go ahead, Jeremy.
All right. Thanks. And I would want to introduce here Allison Avery. I think your position's chief financial officer or something for Borden Cottage, I believe.
Operations, chief operations.
Chief Operations Officer for Borden Cottage. Tom Rodman can't be with us today. Tom is the owner of Borden Cottage and the property there at 245?
235,
235,
Bayview.
Bayview. And so what they are proposing, and I've drafted a memo. I can read the memo into this or not, but I'll just summarize it. The town zoning code allows applicants to request um, a ordinance amendment. And that is what Borden Cottage is looking to do at this point. They've submitted the paperwork, paid the fee. I've been talking with Tom about this for a couple of years, it seems now, about we kind of got into earnest because the licensing issues with the state and what they were trying to do and the way they were trying to set up their facility or operate it in an appropriate way for them to have a good business over there. And so what people don't remember, I'm sure Sandy does, and Chriso, and maybe Ethan, Mark, I don't know if you were around back then. Number of years ago, well before my time, back I think it was 2018 or so, maybe even before that.
I was gonna say a little earlier than that, probably.
Yeah. Borden Cottage was trying to do a private residential treatment facility, and this is a kind of a high-end treatment facility for people, people that actually qualify under the Americans with Disabilities Act because they're in treatment and they have some sort of addiction of some sort. And they're licensed facilities by the state. And Borden Cottage and Tom, and at the time it was, I forget the McLean Hospital, partnered to operate it. And they had a hearing, many meetings. Actually, the hearings I think took place in the Opera House, well attended. I think it was something that Camden was not familiar with or dealt with in the past. I've had lots of experience with these types of facilities in my world. They're often called community living arrangements. They can be called. And these are group homes in essence, where municipalities have to generally allow group homes, people that are in treatment, to live together as a family, kind of in a family structure, in neighborhoods. So it's kind of similar to what they operate. They and the town chose to pass, and it got approved by voters, a new use and a new definition for something that's called private residential treatment facilities. And you have the definition in the packet. It's in the town code. I can read it. It's a treatment facility that provides a comprehensive voluntary recovery program for alcohol and other substance abuse or disorders, along with concurrent treatment for associated mental health issues appropriate for level of care provided. The facility must only be utilized for private residential rehab that requires overnight care. A private residential treatment facility does not provide outpatient care, and any operator must be licensed by the state of Maine to operate a private residential treatment facility. And so what the town allows in the coastal residential zone and what voters approved was they approved that definition and they approved the use in the coastal residential under two conditions. The first condition is that the facility shall have a maximum of 12 single occupancy bedrooms, which must be in buildings in existence as of January 1, 2018. The next requirement is that the facility must be on a single parcel of land of at least 10 acres in size and containing a house with at least 5 bedrooms, all in existence before November 3rd, 1992, the date of the enactment of this chapter. So that's what's on the books. That's how they're operating. And they would like to operate a little bit differently. And so they've submitted a zone change request. I've worked with Tom on this for a little while now. And what we got to was some language, and what they got to was some language that works for them. Shenley, do you want to share your screen, if you don't mind? And this request or amendment that would have to go through the hearing process with you and to the select board and then to voters. And so we're shooting for June, is my hope. And the proposed language is very similar to the existing language. Shenley, if you can scroll up a little bit. No, other way. I'm sorry, down there. Back up so you can pick up 1 and 2 on both. Perfect. So the only change that they're looking to do is that instead of having 12 single occupancy bedrooms, They are looking to have 18 beds in either single occupancy or double occupancy bedrooms. So they would still have, the requirement of in existence. It's not changing. It's not going into a brand new building. There's no intent to do that. And the facility still must be on a single parcel of land. They're just asking to increase the number of beds from 12 to 18 and to allow a double occupancy room. And as I understand and talking with Tom and Allison, there are situations where that might be an ideal situation for their clients. It might be family, it might be appropriate for the type of care and social, mental health services that are needed for all those reasons. And so maybe Allison, I'll turn it back to you, and Shanley, you could probably stop sharing
Yeah.
because it's minor. And Allison, I'll just give you the floor to add anything to this. I think it's a relatively simple and straightforward request. I would add that I know John Cole asked me in an email, and I haven't shared it with you all, but it's not a big deal. Just what was the history to this? Because I don't think John was here at the time, and if there were neighbor concerns or if we're getting complaints. And I want to just tell you that I gave you a very brief summary of the history. But I will say that since I've been here for 7 years, almost going on 7 years, we have never received one complaint, one concern. I don't think anybody knows that the facility's there. It's quite a property, and it's a really special property, and it's Colley's old property. It's very
Sexton's.
special. What's that?
The Sexton property, as some of us
Okay.
think of it.
All right, there you go. See, but it's quite special, and you can't see it from the street. You have no idea what's up there, and we've never had any complaints about it. So I will tell you, from our office's perspective, we have no concerns about this. There are some challenges currently with the state fire marshal in how they allow and count rooms and double occupancies too. And this is another reason that we're trying to do this is to allow those rooms to be the way what they're proposing, so that they can kind of get further licensed with the state to go beyond just a single occupancy room, as I understand. And Allison, I'll give you the floor, and you can introduce
Thank
yourself and speak for Tom or yourself.
Excuse me, I am a little under the weather, so I apologize for that. I think Jeremy explained very well what we're trying to do. It is just a simple change in occupancy. The double occupancy would really open up opportunity, as Jeremy referenced, for us to offer treatment to family members in combination, or we're also considering price point that's a little bit lower. So if people were in a double occupancy room, they would pay less to be in receiving the same treatment to be here. So those are kind of the reasons around the double occupancy. We wanted to start with the town. Obviously, we need permission from the town, and then from there, at least for one of the buildings, we'll probably have to install a sprinkler system to even consider double occupancy, and working with the fire marshal's department around that. And then once all of these things were finalized, permission from the town, permission from fire marshal, we would then approach the state for additional licensed beds to operate. So it's going to be a long process, but this is just step one. And I appreciate everybody's time. And I really would just be open to questions if there's any questions anybody has.
And just so everyone knows too, on the state fire marshal, while they're involved, state fire marshal is the entity that does inspections for licensed facilities like daycares and treatment centers, facilities like this. That's who does the inspection. They have to sign off on it. We have to sign off on it. Goes to the state, they sign off on it, and then those certifications and sign-offs, or certificates of occupancy, if you will, go to the Department of Health and Human Services, who are the ones that end up issuing the license. But that all happens after the municipality and the state fire inspectors do their inspections. Okay.
Thanks, Jeremy and Allison. Any questions from the board?
I just just a clarification, in reading the documents. So Borden College, it is now, you guys are your own separate entity, separate from McLean now?
Correct. Yep. We're
And-
independently operating now.
And it's just the one facility, or is it partnered with anybody else?
Nope, it's just the one facility. We have multiple buildings on the campus. that are
Yeah, yeah, I
facing-
just,
Yeah, but
but
it's
it's
just
a
our
complete
one facility.
standalone.
We're
Okay,
not in a partnership of any kind.
Yeah. I was just curious. I guess my only question on all of this, which is more for Jeremy, is a little bit like, I'm just curious about on a process point, sort of similar to the Elm Street School and a few other things, of why is there not an easier way for them to go to Board of Appeals or something like that without having to go through a whole amendment of the,
No.
it seems a very cumbersome thing to make a very minor adjustment.
It does. Unfortunately, you're right. There is no other way to do it. It's got to be a permitted use, and you can't go to the ZBA. Sandy and Ethan should know this from being on the ZBA, though we don't deal with many variances very often. You can't give a variance for a use that's not allowed. And numbers would be changing the use because of the way we have it set up currently, right? It would be changing the use. So you can't get a variance for that. Tom would have to prove, even beyond that, you'd have to prove that there's no reasonable economic return on the property.
Yeah.
And he could turn around tomorrow and sell the property. He could operate it in a different way. There's many reasons why you can't grant a variance for something like that. I wish there was a way, Chris. I mean, this is town meeting form of government. When it comes to land use changes, it has to go through this process. I mean, there's a lot of good to it, and good reasons for it. But at the same time, these kinds of things are, a little much like the 190 square feet minimum that I got to add to the accessory apartment.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it seems like we've just, even because I was on the zoning board of appeals too, if you were.
Okay.
Yeah, don't throw shade there. He was there as
And
well.
I feel like we did do a couple, like we let one of the B&Bs have dinner as well as breakfast, which I think would
Mhm.
sort of be a variance of use in my, so I don't, again, I mean, to me, I have like, this is a very minor change of an excellent facility that is like, I have no qualms. I think we should just go ahead and schedule the hearing. It feels like we're having a couple of these things pop up that are fairly minor, and even the time frame. I mean, I go back to when Lyman Morse was doing the major rebuild, and we're looking for a height change, and they couldn't wait for the 6-month process for their project. And so, I mean, it's a broader conversation.
Yeah, maybe you can have those broader conversations in another venue at another time.
Yeah.
Point taken. Sandy, did you have something?
No, I'm in favor of it. I think it's a good change, and I have no issues with it at all.
Okay, and Mark, anything from you?
I have no issues either. Just, I guess, a question or a point of clarification. Maybe it's not in the board's jurisdiction here, but I was thinking the same thing about the increased occupancy of fire safety, when Jeremy already addressed that, and it sounds like it's being addressed with the state fire marshal. Is there any issue with, I don't know if this is a privately sewered facility, if it's on town sewer, which is probably, if it is, it's less of an issue, but when you increase the footprint or the occupancy density that much, do you need to do anything with sanitation or sewage that way? Or, I mean, this may just be for information purposes. It may not be.
I don't know are you on sewer out there?
We are on sewer up here. We reviewed this, and it's
I know.
my understanding that there would be no significant impact or changes needed for the property with this.
I mean, those
Right.
estimates are based on however many bedrooms
Right.
which are based on sort of a double occupancy bedroom calculation anyway. So
Anyway.
you're
Right.
So they
Yeah.
do.
you're
The bedrooms that we're we're wanting to use for this increase are already in existence, so we're not doing any construction around this. We have actually existing bedrooms that are considered unlicensed rooms that we can't use, so.
Right, yeah, that's
Really,
what we
it's just a
figured, yeah.
means of getting the licensing
Right.
Will you be
passed.
using those rooms then as bedrooms if you get an increased occupancy? Is that?
Yeah,
part
yeah,
of
that's
it?
the
Okay.
goal is to use all of the bedroom spaces, but due to the current restrictions, we have rooms that we're not allowed to use and put
How
in.
many are unlicensed at this point?
Currently,
bedrooms?
there's 2 bedrooms that are unlicensed
Okay.
that, or excuse me, there's 4 bedrooms that are unlicensed, 2 of those that we would consider double occupancy. And then there's 2 additional bedrooms that are licensed right now for single occupancy, but we would want to make those doubles.
Right.
So,
So you currently have 12, licensed for 12,
yes,
and you'd just like to go to 18.
yeah, yep,
And some of those would be double and they'd be adding the 4. So 12 plus 4 is 16.
+2.
So plus 2 maybe in other rooms or whatever, right? Okay. I mean, I share Chriso's you know, general sentiment about the having to go through an ordinance change for something that seems like it shouldn't be necessary. And I also, I'm also the spot zoning, guy, and I do get a little concerned when we pass ordinances that affect one facility or one school building. I know, Jeremy, I know you've got your thing about it, and so you and I see this a little bit differently. But my question is, will this? I know I understand that it takes a 10-acre lot and a building with enough bedrooms. There probably aren't many places in the town of Camden that could
Well,
open up a
and
facility
it's
like
not even
this.
it's not even the town, it's B5. Like it's actually specific to one very particular district.
Right, which is to me that just, it raises my
Okay.
spot zoning hackles, and it's not anything about the project. It's just, and I so I just want to always be aware of it. And I'm going to hear Jeremy's usual song and dance about
No,
spot zoning,
different,
but
different here.
oh, different
So-
one. Good. Okay.
Yeah. You're absolutely right, Ethan. And that's why I mentioned what I did when I first started this conversation about community living arrangements under state law. And then there's these variances that are allowed. They're called Federal Fair Housing Act reasonable accommodation variances. It's something we don't have in our code, which technically we should have in our code, because we should create, instead of doing something like this. I will tell you, back when I was watching this from afar when I was in Bangor, this is what I do. So when I see a town like Camden and an entity like Borden Cottage and McLean trying to do something like this, I wonder, are they doing it the way I would do it, or are they doing it the right way? And I looked from afar and I said they should do this as a community living arrangement, which is required. Every town's got to allow them in every zoning district that allows residential uses under state law and federal law, to allow something called community living arrangements. Under state law, they're generally maxed at 6 beds. That's where you have the Federal Fair Housing Act reasonable accommodation that allows you to increase that number by going to a Board of Appeals. That is something that the town, in my opinion, should probably look at doing, instead of having what you did, what you explains, the spot zoning. I mean, it probably singles this property out perfectly. They could have added a third one and said it must be on Bayview. So that's something Tom and I, one of the reasons why this took so long is Tom and I had this conversation about whether or not we should really approach this more holistically and look at community living arrangements, allowing them and changing the ZBA process to add a Federal Fair Housing Act reasonable accommodation variance and all that. That's where I'd like to get to, and I think is appropriate and probably legally required of us to do in our ordinance. It's expensive to operate community living arrangements or private residential treatment facilities. It's certainly expensive to operate the one that they have out on Bayview. So we haven't seen the pressure like Rockland has them. all over, Sweetser and entities like that operate community living arrangements, and they might be right next to you, on Union Street. And there's 6, maybe more people living together, all in treatment. They may not be getting treated there, but they're in treatment because they need, they're recovering from addiction. So that's a bigger question and a bigger look, Ethan, but I appreciate your question and your point. And what we shouldn't do is do these kinds of fixes. We do these all the time. We got the one up at Chip Late's property on Route 1, same thing. Must be in a house or a building that was Red Barn in 1946. And, we do that stuff. Our ordinance is full of it, and it's not the way to do zoning. But we do it. We'll try to fix that in the future. So there's my.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see something that is more flexible and also more supportive of these types of living arrangements. And I know that you're going to get some objections from people if you start. I mean, Borden Cottage is a separate entity, really, because I mean, let's be honest, we're not having the same issues you might have with some of the places that you might find. But I think we should be supporting all the addiction treatment centers and that sort of thing, but also appropriately locating them and making sure we're doing it in a way that looks at it from a perspective of what's best for the town and everything. So that was my only question. Nothing about this actual project. So I certainly,
if someone, I will say, if someone came into tomorrow and said they wanted to open a community living arrangement under state law over on Union Street or on Park Street or on wherever, Pearl, we would have to allow it. And
you'd have to allow it, right?
And it's not even an allowed use, and we would allow it, and neighbors will probably, some neighbors may get, complain and get worked up, but we would have to allow it. So let's get to a point at some point where we allow them, and if they come, they come. My gut says is they won't. It's expensive. Real estate's expensive in Camden.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that. So there you go. That's what I got.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was a different song, so thank you.
Yes.
All right. So I guess then the next thing really is without any more questions for the applicant, unless Tom, did you have anything? I know you're out there. You're on mute, but okay. Just wanted to give Tom a chance to speak up if he wanted to. Okay, so then I guess what we're looking at then is just putting this on the
Getting a
schedule,
hearing.
and that's we throw this over to Shenley there and see what we can work out.
Your next one, due to advertising, requirements, it could be
You're right.
December 19th would be the next available slot on your public hearing.
Would
we
that
have enough
work for
time to
you,
advertise.
Allison?
What was the date? I'm sorry.
December 19th.
December 19th.
Okay, and this is new to me. Can you just walk me through what that means?
Yeah, basically we'd be holding a public hearing, and so we would repeat the song and dance that we did here, where I would open the meeting, Jeremy would introduce the project, you would speak for a minute, again like you did, talking about your need, your interest in the project. Then we would open it up for public comment. The people who would be automatically notified would be the abutters to your property. I imagine there are only a few, and they're pretty aware of what you're doing. But you might get more people from the town might come in and say, well, what about this or what about that? They will raise questions. The board will then close the public comment period, have a discussion, and then we might open it up for a final public comment if there was anything new to add based on what we had discussed. And then the board would deliberate and decide whether or not to move forward with the project and send it to the select board for approval to go to the voters. I think I got that right. It's only taken me about 8 years on the planning board.
You got it right on. And I'm gonna
December 19th should work. Is it a Zoom or is it an in-person?
It'll be in person.
In person.
There will be a Zoom link, and it'll be on Zoom. So if Tom's out of town or wherever he is for that, he could still join in. You could too, if you need it.
Yeah,
You know,
it's not mandatory to be there, but
what I don't want to, yeah, someone should be there. What I don't want to happen is, you know, a couple of times on amendments, they kind of got sideways when they got to the select board. You know, I'm thinking of the first time we did the historic piece for the school, the Montessori. And when we included, we also had, you know, the mill building.
block up on Mill,
Yeah.
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 And that all of a sudden, that took the meat of the concern of the select board, and it shut down both the school project and that zoning amendment. And then we just brought the school thing came forward. So I'm gonna work with Tom as the liaison to the select board to make sure he at least makes the select board aware that this is happening and this is moving forward. So I'll send him a memo just so that he can share with the select board, likely during public comment period, or not public comment, but during his select board reports kind of thing. And I'll send it to him, and I'll probably send it to the select board in general, just to let them
And by
know.
Tom, you're speaking to Tom Hedstrom at this point.
That's who I'm speaking to, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, does that sound good?
Great.
December
So we'll-
19th.
December 19th, and will we,
That-
where and what time? How does, I don't know anything.
Oh, yeah,
5 o'clock at the French conference room in Camden. I just didn't hear from Mark or Sandy whether that time worked. Crystal, does that work for you?
Yeah, it's fine with me.
That works for me. I've got some surgery on the 13th, but should be fine for the 19th. Should not
Great.
interfere.
Oh,
Okay.
Ethan, I was on mute there. It works for me also.
Yeah, I think Lucia is available on that date as well, probably.
Yeah,
Pat.
do you remember Shenley, what Lucia and Pat, were they gonna be able to do that?
Lucia will be available, I know that much. I'm not sure about Pat,
Okay.
but that's enough, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
We
and
envy
if-
Pat's travel schedule.
Yeah. All right, and if it becomes an issue, we'll just continue the meeting, and we'll start it and continue it to another date or something.
Yeah,
Just
I don't think it should be a real long one,
All right,
No,
honestly.
that sounds good.
Perfect.
all the neighbors are used to it
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
Right.
Quiet.
Well, that's all I have. So we'll get everything ready for the public hearing. We'll get the notice posted. And then go from there. One final thing, and Allison, you will get a letter in the mail from us about the date and all that.
Great. Thank
You will, I know you paid the fee. You'll get hit up for the advertising costs, but we'll get that to you. We'll get you that cost when we've got that.
Don't forget the planning board compensation.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not funny. No.
And just so you know too, I did send, so the board knows, I sent Chriso and Ethan as chair and vice chair. I'll try to send it to you all. We're doing a Zoom workshop on December. This is the Harbor Resiliency. I should have said this earlier, but I'm going to say it now. The Harbor Resiliency project that's been working on. We hired consultants to do work on this. We're having 3 meetings with different groups. The Camden Can group, which is Camden Climate Action Now, kind of a grassroots group, and other interested citizens will participate in that one. And then there's one for town staff and boards. And so I'm trying to get the select board, planning board, harbor committee, conservation committee. It's going to be an hour long on Zoom. It's really going to be what the consultant is going to do, a presentation on where we are with the project thus far, and provide some kind of a draft of adaptation, resiliency adaptation toolkit that property owners can kind of use to make their properties more resilient to storm surge and sea level rise. And then we'll take a little bit of public comment on that. That project's going to wind down at the end of January for sure. And then they're going to do another one. These are happening 3 days in a row for an hour, 1 to 2. And then they're going to do the third one is going to be with the business owners or property owners around the harbor. So we're looking at the condos, at Steamboat, Lyman Morse, the public library is going to do it with the town staff, and then Stuart Smith's property, and then his properties. And then I've talked to Rick O'Farrell, who is he manages the properties for Watson over there, the Watson family. And then the condos and the yacht club will be on that list too. Harbor Square condos. So we'll try to get everyone involved, at least. Oh, and Sam Appleton, I'm gonna try to rope him in as well. Owner of Waterfront. And
I didn't hear the date on that, Jeremy, for the rest of the board.
I'll send it to you. I think the board meeting and town staff meeting would be December 3rd from 1 to 2. And it's a Zoom meeting. And we'll record them, so you don't have to be there necessarily, but it'll be available. We do want your input though. I mean, they've done a lot of work. We did have a meeting at the library that had, I think there are about, I guess 100 people participated remotely and in person. Certainly wasn't 100 people in person, but there must have been 50 maybe. And so it was a good attendance. Blake and myself, it was really them, Blake and Todd Richardson from Richardson Associates, Todd Kaufman from WSP, the engineers that are working on it, and Pete Slavinsky actually came back up to town and participated in that. He's the state geologist that came in and talked about sand dunes and sea level rise and how it's impacted the harbor. He's a really good guy, and so he came and participated in that again. So that was good. That's coming forward. Okay.
All right. Well, we promised Chriso less than 45 minutes, and he's yawning. So I think it's time to wrap here.
All right.
Thanks everybody for coming in, for your participation. Thanks, Allison. We'll see you again on the 19th.
Thank you guys all for your time. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Shenley and Jeremy, thanks for all you do.
Absolutely. Thank you all
Thank
too.
you. Thanks.
Yep.